Well, here we are in the church hall at St Lawrence's, which is a well-attended village church, and I'm talking to Robert and Lynn, who are the church wardens who've just led the church through a vacancy. Lynn, how well prepared did you feel for the vacancy when it began?
Well, I think it's fair to say that when our previous rector announced his removal or his leaving, we were totally unprepared because neither of us were on the PCC when the previous rector left, and so we weren't involved particularly in the organisation of the vacancy. So we were a little bit unprepared, to say the least.
We did find places to get advice. I mean, we got advice from the diocese, advice from retired clergy and our predecessors as wardens and so on. But yes, we really weren't prepared, and we had to almost make it up as we went along.
Robert, how did you organise things? Did the two of you do everything yourselves?
No, we didn't do everything ourselves, though of course we had to emphasise who was responsible, and that was of course the church wardens. But we had help from a lot of lay people, retired clergy, we had a strong PCC, and most fundamentally we had a lot of prayer going on, without which I know the vacancy would not have gone the way it did. We had to get on with things as far as recruiting our new rector was concerned. So we moved very rapidly on the parish profile, got a realistic personal profile together, worked closely with our sister parish, because we're two parishes in the same benefice. But in terms of organisation, it was a question of getting as many hands on deck as possible, and that included a pastoral team working hard in the village and in the parish, and people really coming forward and helping, and that's vital in any vacancy.
Now, what went well through the vacancy? What was good about it?
Well, I think there's about three things particularly that went very well during the vacancy. The first one was that people were encouraged to pray for us as church wardens organising the vacancy, but generally for the whole process, and that was very important. The next thing that we set up was a pastoral care awareness team, and that was to make sure that if people stopped coming to church during the vacancy, that somebody noticed. So we made lists of all the people who regularly attended church, and if there was somebody dropped by the wayside, then we started to ask questions as to why they felt that it was necessary to not come to church during that time. And the other thing that we started, which we hadn't done before, was we had a welcome team set up. People went to have a sort of a course on welcoming people into the church, and we tried to make sure that anybody that came in that was new or perhaps hadn't been for a while were made to feel that they were welcome and very important coming into the church. So those were the three things I think that went extremely well, that we perhaps hadn't done before necessarily in such a strong way. So that was good. And
otherwise we really kept everything going as it had. So all the church activities continued, the services continued more or less as we'd had them before. And we had completed our mission action plan, i.e. we'd completed preparing it. We then continued steadily to enact it through the vacancy, rather than just leaving it and waiting for the new rector to arrive.
I think attendance even went up a bit during the vacancy. Is that right? How did that happen?
Well, we worked hard at making sure that people felt welcome. I think some people either came back to the church or came for the first time just to see what was happening, and we obviously wanted to make them feel involved and feel at home. We worked hard to make sure that the PCC worked together as a team and that the congregation had a sense of togetherness. And I think that helped, because then that helped to increase people's involvement, and obviously through being involved they were here. So we did see the church grow numerically and probably in other ways during the vacancy, which actually was very encouraging.
I think there was quite a lot of people as well thought that acquiring a new rector took a matter of weeks rather than the few months that it did take. So I think there was a sort of people turning up to see whether or not he'd started yet. Quite early on, people were coming in, have you got a new rector yet? So there was a bit of an expectation that things were going to go through a lot quicker than they perhaps did.
Which brings us to the point of managing expectations, which we had to do. And that actually, it's an important point. We had to do a lot of communicating. So making sure that the congregation knew what we were doing as a church and where we were in terms of the recruitment of the new rector was really important. And I think we got that more or less right. Though always you're going to get criticised for poor communication.
Now, your new rector's been in post about 3 months. How's that going? Are you adjusting to having a rector again? Is it a bit of a shock, or how well is it going?
Yes, our new rector's been in post since for about 3 months, and he certainly seems to be an answer to prayer. And it's a strange feeling having somebody overall in charge that's taken the responsibility off our shoulders a little bit, which is a good thing. And I think because we worked well together, we sorted out the profile and everything together, we got the chap that we wanted. And I think therefore it's been a very successful vacancy from that point of view. We've ended up with a very nice, good vicar, and our attendances have grown even more since then, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. And I think what was interesting was that during the vacancy there really was a sense of expectation amongst the congregation, and it's still there, and that's got to be a good sign.